functional Islam that we have accepted is exactly the Islam that the system and the Israelis, the Zionists, don't want to see prosper. And they prove it by saying, and we're still here. I know what a miracle is. So whether it's Hashem, whether it's Abdul Malik on the other side, and then you study the way people act and do, you know. So Abdul Malik would say from time to time, I ain't gonna let her break me. But he came to the Masjid in 83, 82, might have been 82 was 82. And he was talking about, he didn't say he was talking about Iceberg Slim, but it was from one of his book, Pippin and what have you. And he was telling me, yeah, he was a curly-headed guy from over the university, and the girls like him, so he was going through that. And so he was thinking, he was advising me, what you gotta do is you gotta think like a pimp. And I was looking at him like he just got out of high school, like you wouldn't know what a pimp was, you don't know nothing about this. But for him to say you gotta think like a pimp and to say that I'm not gonna let her break me is a total contradiction. In reality, why would he say I'm not going to let her break me? Because his father, everybody knows his mama, black woman, and that she don't push his father around, but she gets her way, and everybody knows that. So he has that in him. That's why he would say, in the gangster world, you couldn't even breathe. If you said, I ain't gonna let her break me, they said, what's wrong with that nigga? You ain't gonna let her, you know, because remember the attitude, not me, I'm just saying the attitude from those periods and from that time, you cannot be weak for women. I'm not saying that stuff was fair. In fact, it was unfair. The attitude, but one part of it helped me. Well, it sure did. Because I ain't never been brokenhearted in my life. You know, niggas sitting there brokenhearted. That's the most pitiful thing, right? Because you can't do nothing. That has never happened to me. I have felt those things that all men feel about women, but I have never been sidetracked or lose focus on what I'm doing. Or I have never changed behavior because of that. And he's talking about, I ain't gonna let her break me. What the hell what are you talking about? You're not gonna let, just think, this is the way the lingo would go. You ain't gonna let a B word, or you're not gonna let a girl break you, and you a grown nigga, what's wrong with you? To even think, how do you associate that? That's because them niggas been to school, and the school cannot teach them what you learn out in the world. They can't do it. It's impossible. That's why you just have to sit there twiddling your thumbs and say, oh, boy, that's really something there. And you just put it away for then. But you associate all that stuff. Why is Hashem anti-this and anti-that? Well, Hashem's father was Japanese. You can see that his father's Japanese. Okay. Mother's a Negro. Well, he looks mostly Negroid. But they have tests that they give people to make sure that they're amenable to following orders. And those people do. Why? Because they find their strength in the system. Like one little fool out there, I am the police. The police, that means that's where the badge, I got the gun, I got all that. I'm the police. So you look like a fool to me. I use other language, you know, and they holding it back. I don't know if you heard about this stuff out there, right out there. So anyway, there's psychology, history, sociology, management, leadership, and all of this, and it comes in a package. I am not saying that, well, what I'll say is this. Personally, on the subject of leadership, I feel so happy and privileged to be a part of this thing right here. And whatever everybody do is their business, but we're on another level now, so it's my duty to try to help people make their transitions. Mr. Najee was here, right here. He's a lawyer now. I showed him the whole case. All he had to do was say, okay, do this, you file this, you file that, you file. He didn't do none of that. It just took him 10 minutes maximum. And he hasn't been back. And he said right there at the Ramadan table one time, I'm doing this, become a lawyer so I can help you. Well, okay. Well, here I am. I mean, there ain't no problem. And Hashem was at the bank with Mukhtar. Because Hashem told me when the program was in San Francisco, maybe 3 years ago, yeah, I was at the bank when they turned over the money. And Hashem said, you was the police. Mukhtar said he did this because you was the police. Now, he been there all the time for the last 30-something years. And he didn't seen this and he didn't seen that. And so what if Mukhtar said, I'm taking your money, DC's money, not one drop from Oakland, because I'm the police. You might wonder, why do I put up with all of this? I put up with it because it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And you reflect, and you get a chance to make sure that you're not unjust to nobody, because you're not going to say nothing till after 15 things happen. At least, well, a minimum of 5 and probably 10 or 15. Okay. So, the other thing about leadership, one guy talks about is lead, L-I-D, you know, a lead. So business will never evolve, or your movement or organization will never evolve above the leadership. So they have a little thing on this thing about the lead deterrence, you know. So it's saying something like, if you're a number 5 leader, the people in your organization will never evolve above a 4. They will not evolve above a 4. If you want to improve the level of interaction of the leadership, you have to evolve and say, suppose you are number 8 leader, right? So now the people, the 5, 6s, maybe even a few 7s. So you're on a roll. And if you have people coming and going and leaving and entering your group, something happens. If all the people who are leaving are number 1s and number 2s, and all the people coming in are 4, 5, 6s, hey, you're on a roll. You see what I mean? I'm talking about on this level of measurement. We're talking about the lead. The people are not going to evolve, right, above the leadership level that's established. So it says, yeah, business will never rise really above, I just have this, my ability to lead. Leaders will determine the success of your business, company, country, or movement. So it's not followers, it's not visitors, leaders will determine the level or the success of your company, organization, and business. Let's look at the United States right now. The United States 4 years ago was, let's call it in a decline. Well, at that time they was in Afghanistan, still over there fighting. They was in Iraq, still over there fighting. They were still losing numbers then. Okay. They hadn't won a war since World War II, unless you call Grenada. They invaded Grenada. Remember that? They invaded Grenada. There's 5 people there at least. And they was really beating the drums like, yeah, we did it, we went over there, and we did it. Right? This is insane. They invaded Grenada. Just when the Grenadans made friendly overtures, so sometimes they make people not want to be friendly. Because if you start talking friendly talk, they might think you're scared, right? Not to change the subject, but at that same time, in the invasion of Grenada, the seal of approval from Hollywood, Driving Miss Daisy and Glory came out, right? And they also approved Amos and Andy coming back on, they didn't put them on TV, but they made it okay. You probably don't remember Amos and Andy. Did any of y'all ever see any?
I've been watching it lately.
You've been watching it?
Yeah.
Boy, look at here. Now, they said, this is just, the black nationalists were saying, that was a terrible, demeaning program. Now, to me, I never missed the program, and I liked it. And I incorporated a lot of the stuff that they do, the kingfishers. We do that on the white man. It's imaginary, because niggas don't do that stuff exactly like they put. Right. But that's what he thinks we do. So we do things that he missed, and then we tell him that's what we was doing, and it makes him mad. Yeah, it's just an attitude. Remember, it's an attitude, man, I'm telling you. If you're not afraid of a thing, you can think of what am I going to do? But if you're afraid of something, you run and jump and hide, and you're in the busy getting out of the way, right? But when you don't have no fear, and the other thing is when you laugh at a sucker, boy, I'm not going to go into the Russian studies, that if you wanted to trick somebody, this is way back 40 years ago. If you wanted to trick somebody or steal something, you get them to laugh. That's the Russian study. And I said, boy, now I see what the Negro's up to. Boy, he ain't gonna never try to make you mad. He gonna have you laughing as much as he can. And laughter is the only way we could say the truth sometime. In the old days, you couldn't tell the truth, just get up and say the white man this and the white man that. You could say it, but you couldn't get it over, but you could make a cartoonish environmental, and you could say exactly what you wanted to say, you know, like the minstrel show. Okay, so let me speed up. Leaders will determine the success of your business, country, company, or movement. Then the question, are leaders born Now remember, we have an article over 20 years old called Leadership in the Islamic Movement. And on the back of the original one, I have a footprint. It's when Sakina was born. You know, I just put the ink blot on there. And I don't know if you remember that. It's got her little footprint on there. Yeah. Because I was reminding myself that now we have a child, but I'm going to stay busy writing these things. Remember, we kept on writing them all the way up. But sometime a little baby come and the baby crawl down the stairs, or the baby do this, or the baby do that. And so you remind yourself that this baby is a wonderful experience, but we also have to make sure that baby is secure and what have you in the future. So our leaders born, are there some special characteristics? Well, I'm only going to refer to myself. I did realize at one time in my life that I was a natural leader. So what I have to do now is improve. If I'm going to be a leader anyway, okay, so I have to improve. A lot of people, that's why I named myself Musa. That's simple, because Musa had a big job. In those days, he did what he did. And Musa had people. You can tell I knew what I was doing. What did the people do? They always harass him. Moses, we ain't getting enough food. We ain't getting nothing. Who wants to eat manna and quail? That's like squab, baby pigeons. And all the time, and quail, they go hunting them things. Right? And the manna, you just scrape it off the rocks and make flour out of it. Sweet halwa. So they didn't want sweet bread and meat, tender meat from it. They want garlic, cucumbers, and all that stuff that they have down in the town. They said, go down to the town and get all of that stuff that you know. Moses, we had been at the flesh pots of Pharaoh, the flesh pots. We had more meat and everything in slavery. Coming across the sea, it's a miracle, so what? We had it better back in slavery than we do out here free, running around in the wilderness. So I had enough experience with black people to know they was going to say exactly the same thing. That's why I had, right? That's where Musa comes from. Because I was expecting to be a leader, not from arrogance, but historically that's what's been happening all along, right? So you accept that reality. But that reality comes with improvement, because the people are never going to rise no higher than the scale or the level that you set. So leaders can be taught, and they can learn. Coaches, teams, raise the leadership lid. I'm going to speed up.
They can teach.
They can
Teach and they can learn. You said talk.
Yeah, talk, pass it. That's just what I had. Leadership is not just something special born. This is a born leader. Okay, like I have natural characteristics in some kind of way. Wherever I've been, it's always been that way. Okay, so that has to be a reality. But in order to do what we're doing, we cannot do it with just being natural. You got to improve. You have to study, right? And after you study and improve, part of your study and improvement is teaching others. Because remember, first you might have to just show people how it goes. So it's you and them, the leader and the person. Then after a while, you let them do it by themselves. They do it by themselves. Hey, I didn't die. I'm still alive. Look at here. Then they in turn teach other people. Remember we was talking about the other day, we have to get into the idea of that we got to teach people. Why? This job stands for it's everybody has to become a leadership type. Now, whether you're naturally gifted, whether one will be a 3 leader, another will be a 6 leader, technically it don't make any difference, right? Because if you use the skill and you use the process of being active and then reflecting on what you've learned, right? Then you're going to improve. So we're not looking for perfection. The number 10 leader is perfect. Who would even want to be a perfect 10? You know, I mean, after all. So, if we have a level of a leadership level where people are able to teach other people, and then those other people will teach other people, it goes on down like a pyramid. And the bigger that pyramid gets, the higher people will go up, right? That's what we're working on. That's exactly what we're working on. Let me see if I can get, okay. These are the points, yes, okay. So this thing about leadership is we want to develop a leadership culture where the behavior pattern, our behavior is that we are part of a culture that leads and teaches leadership. And it teaches in a process that leads to evolution of the individual, and also evolution in the movement, the organization, or the government, or whatever it is you're involved in, right? We mentioned the U.S. before. Just look at the U.S., look at the state it's in. You know, the state that the United States is in is what we prayed for. It's in a total decline. And if we get our way, we'll help in its revival.